Yeah, Huel, no one has been charged yet, but the feds did spend a considerable part of the day gathering as much evidence as they could from multiple locations in what they're calling a case of public corruption. FBI agents seen searching the homes of Detroit Council members Jane Ayers and Scott Benson.
Jane Ayers and Scott Benson. These cities, man. One thing I'm always amazed at, and tell me if this amazes you too. You go to these cities, you have a son mayor, a son police chief, a son battalion chief, a complete son city council, a son congressman, and every problem in that city will be blamed on racism. Everyone. I'm like, and it goes completely unchecked. No one says, well, wait a second. No one ever says, well, wait a second.
FBI agents seen searching the homes of Detroit Council members Jane Ayers and Scott Benson. Other federal agents at Detroit City Hall. When we asked why?
Why are we doing these search warrants? Because the citizens of Detroit have a right to a city government that is free of corruption.
We do know the raid is connected to a public corruption investigation.
No one is being charged today. Simply what we're doing today is collecting evidence, which will be presented to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Michigan.
In response to this investigation, fellow Detroit Councilwoman Raquel Castaneda Lopez is asking for yearly mandatory ethics training. And this is...
Oh, ethics training now. They're calling for yearly ethics training. Usually it's racial sensitivity training. But I guess no one used coded language on the city council floor. So, or no one, wasn't a tweet pulled up from the past, from 10 years ago of one of the non-son council members. So since it's corruption by the son members of the city council, ethics training, yearly ethics training. Think about that. They need yearly ethics training. Like, look, man, this is the right thing to do. Don't do this, don't do that. This is morally wrong, and this is morally right. Wow.
Is asking for yearly mandatory ethics training. And this is not the first criminal investigation involving the Detroit Council.
We don't know what the investigation is about. Because public corruption investigations are so broad, it's really unfair to try and draw a conclusion.
Andre Spivey was recently charged federally, accused of accepting more than $35,000 in bribes. And Gabe Leland was forced to leave city council in May, then pleaded guilty to a state charge surrounding illegal campaign contributions, taking thousands in cash for a vote on a land deal.
And all these are liberals, all of them.
As for this current investigation, obviously they're in the very early stages. The FBI actually asked us to ask you if you have any information as a viewer to contact them or the U.S. Attorney's Office. Reporting live tonight, Dave Spencer on The Edge.
Yeah, I think the mayor led today with the city's worst kept secret. A lot of people really had James White as their favorite. We've known him as interim chief. Looks like he's going to drop that interim title and become chief here in the city of Detroit. But this is all pending Detroit City Council approval. They have 30 days to accept the nod, and all signs point to that they will accept that. Now, as far as his history here, he was born and raised in Detroit, working his way up the ranks of the department to, as you said, he'll become Detroit's top cop. Nearly 3 months after James White was named interim chief June 1st, Mayor Mike Duggan selects White as Detroit's next police chief.
I think anybody in this city who has watched the way James White has handled himself in the last 2 months feels very good about where the Detroit Police Department is headed.
Detroit City Council has final say, 30 days to accept the mayor's appointment. Duggan selected from a list of 3 candidates, White getting the nod over Ann Arbor's police chief Mike Cox and Wayne County Deputy Sheriff Robert Dunlap.
So all 3 candidates for Detroit's police chief was brothers. Policing in this country is systematically and inherently racist. Every city we go to, like, we're overrepresented, man, in this country when it comes to police chiefs, law enforcement. There's more sisters police chiefs than statistically it should be. And especially in the major cities, the flagship cities, the Detroits, the Chicagos, the Baltimores, the DCs, the Atlantas, the New Yorks. We're overrepresented. Oakland. I mean, Minneapolis, Kansas City, just anywhere that got a football team or a basketball team. The police chief is probably a brother or a sister. And all we hear about is how inherently racist policing is to its core.
These big titles and powerful seats are nothing if we don't do something with the time that we are in them.
We learned Monday, since White has been serving as interim chief, there has been a 20% reduction in homicides and non-fatal shootings.
We're not patting ourselves on the back and celebrating anything because one homicide, one child shot is one too many.
White says he's honored and humbled to be selected, especially during a time where policing is under scrutiny, even getting the stamp of approval from Dr. Wendell Anthony, head of the NAACP in Detroit.
He has demonstrated himself to be transparent by recent events, and you need to be transparent when it comes to the community. That's how you build trust.
This guy right here is one of the worst people on the planet. He's a terrible human being. Kids getting shot every day, women getting shot every day. I'm not talking about just the stray bullets. I'm talking about hunted down, gunned down, college students, all of them son people. And this fool, when he talks about accountability, he's not talking about police solving those cases that are unsolved. Bringing those people to justice, at least bringing them, arresting them and leaving it in the hands of the prosecutor. Or detectives doing everything, beating every bush looking for leads. He's talking about a thug running from the cops, getting tripped up and getting his arm scraped up while he hits the ground. He's talking about some thug fighting with some cop and getting put in the chokehold in a life or death struggle. Some cop in some alley in a life or death struggle with some thug. Fighting for his freedom, trying to get away, and the cop puts the guy in the chokehold. This is what he's talking about. In a city where the death toll is just insane. Just look at the faces of who's dying in this city. Now, this city is like 70% some people, but look at the faces. Look at this girl. She was on a bicycle. Takia Allen. killed in the crossfire while riding a bike. Okay? Nobody in custody. That clown from the NAACP isn't, when he's talking about the police, we need transparency, he's not talking about them solving this case. Look at this guy. Killed on his 21st birthday in a random shooting. Family and friends honor the life of Jaquan Jones, killed on 21st birthday in a random shooting. On July 6th, he was driving his mother's car in the area of 8 Mile and Rex on Detroit's east side, where police say someone shot into the car, killing Jaquan and wounding his friend. Just random. Just pow, shoot the car. Like, maybe a mistaken idea. I don't know. It's still random to this family. Dad of boy fatally shot on I-75. We need everybody's support. Gunman opens fire on car. Somebody just shoots into a car, this little boy gets killed. This is the type of stuff that's going on. Like, just people just dropping like flies in this city.
Even getting the stamp of approval from Dr. Wendell Anthony, head of the NAACP in Detroit.
He has demonstrated himself to be transparent by recent events, and you need to be transparent when it comes to the community. That's how you build trust. That's how you build relationships. You build them before you need them.
Under White's lead so far, he's had to address at least 4 personnel issues with officer suspensions and internal investigations, a vow for continued transparency.
Certainly 2 things can be true at once. You can hold officers accountable, but you can support good policing.
Now, certainly, Chief White came along here as a leader in a very tough time. I think when he took over, homicides were up 50% year to date here in the city. He's made a dent in that so far, but a lot of high-profile crime cases coming out of Detroit. Even some of his own officers making headlines for the wrong reasons. The most recent fire he'll be putting out, a newly minted Detroit police officer found himself in some trouble over the week in Greektown. We'll get into that more coming up at 6. But for now, live reporting downtown, Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
Yes, and during this interim period, he has certainly had his hands full. But Jessica, a lot of people feel that what has really made James White stand out against so many other candidates and people is that his emphasis on mental health and his expertise and background with it.
He has quite an education in mental health. He actually touched on that today, that they're requesting even more grant funding to really beef up their mental health program here in the city. I think he said over the last 3 months, 22,000 calls into DPD were mental health related, so it is much needed. His expertise is much needed.